Good afternoon. This is the field training orientation. This is Dr. Lara Cuenta from Fordham University School Psychology Program. The purpose of today's webinar is to orient all of the students in the PD and the PhD program to all of the field training experiences that are required by the program. An overview of this presentation, I'm going to do some quick updates. Then we will discuss steps in beginning field placements, the 3 practica that are required, externship, and internship. You can review this webinar, and then if there are any questions that you have in addition to the content that's covered here, then you can always email me at mlaracuenta@fordham.edu. Quick updates. All updated information regarding field placements and the school psychology program in general is on the wiki. The website is right there in front of you. Today, we're going to review very general policies. The field training manual is on the wiki. However, I just wanted to highlight that it is your responsibility as the student to review the manual with all of the policies and procedures. Manual is updated pretty much annually, so it will be updated by the end of the semester, and you should review the update for any changes. In addition, you should also create a field placement plan and consider a few things. Number 1, your coursework. Consult with your academic advisor in terms of which courses you're going to be taking when in order to be able to create a comprehensive field placement plan. And number 2, you should consult with myself about any sites. Step-by-step guide to field placements. Number 1, you should read the field training manual and be familiar with all of the contents of it. You should complete and submit the eligibility for field experiences form to my attention by October 10th of the fall semester and March 10th of the spring semester. Number 3, you should search for a site. Wait until you get approval from me before you search for a site. The purpose of that form is for me to make sure that you have completed all of the prerequisite requirements. When you start searching for a site, you should start the search early. So for a practicum, you should search the semester before, and for internship, you should actually look a full year prior to beginning internship. 2 ways to find a site. Number 1, there's a Google Drive document that has a list of practicum, externship, internship sites. You already have access to it. You should check it. We maintain it and we update it on a semester by semester basis. Number 2, there's actually a wiki. It's a Psych Practicum wiki that has a list of training sites for externship. But some of those sites are also available for internship as well. And obviously, number 3 is actually if there are any sites that you know of or that you're interested in that you would like to do a field placement at that are not on any of those lists, please just don't hesitate to let me know, and we can follow through and figure out if those would be great places for you to be. Number 4, apply to the sites. Usually for a practicum, externship, and internship, you contact the psychologist directly, usually via phone or email, and you follow whatever their application instructions are. At minimum, they usually ask for a resume and a cover letter, and sometimes they'll ask for samples of your work. So for example, perhaps a sample testing report or a case summary. Number 5, all of the sites require an interview. You will arrange that directly with the supervisor. Number 6, if you receive an acceptance at a site. Number 7, once you receive an acceptance, you submit a proposal for field experiences form to my attention. There is a link for that. It's in the field placement manuals, or my graduate assistant sends out a link every semester with the proposal for field experiences form. And always, number 8, you have to remember that you have to register for a university course associated with a field placement. All field placements while you're in this program require you to be registered for a university course. Other things, there are some sites that require an official request for placement. You just submit a request to me via email, and then I'll give you the letter that they require. Also, any practical placements with the New York City Department of Education, so any of the public schools within the 5 boroughs of New York City, they require some extra steps. Number 1, once the school psychologist agrees to accept you, you have to send me some information. I listed the information there below. Number 2, you have to go to the New York City DOE main office in Brooklyn to be fingerprinted. You can contact Ms. Elizabeth Casey to add your name to the list so that you can be eligible for fingerprinting. As an overview of the field experiences for the PD program, your bare minimum requirements are that you have to complete 3 practica and 1 internship. You can do an optional externship, but most students usually keep to the 3 practica and the internship. For the PhD, it requires 3 practica, 1 externship, and 1 internship. So I'm going to go over each of these experiences individually. For both programs, you have to complete 3 practica: a clinical practicum, a consultation practicum, and an integration practicum. For clinical practicum, it requires 150 hours. So 120 of those hours would be completed at the site, and then the other 30 hours would be completed in your university-based course. It's a 2-hour course each week. So that rounds out to probably about spending 1 day per week for the entire semester at a site. Your supervisor has to be a licensed and/or certified psychologist or a licensed clinical social worker. And you can complete clinical practicum in either a school, clinic, or a hospital. At minimum, you have to be able to work with at least 1 client or student for a minimum of 5 counseling sessions, and be prepared to present a case study in class and prepare a portfolio documenting the progress of all of your interventions. In addition to direct counseling, you can complete other activities that are directly related to the counseling. So for example, any classroom options, committee on special education meetings, any kind of assessment, etc., but it must be directly related to your counseling cases. For consultation practicum, the hour requirement is the same. It's 150 hours in total. 30 of those hours are your university-based supervision course, and 120 hours are on site. Your supervisor must be a licensed and/or certified school psychologist, and you have to complete this particular practicum in a school. You'll be required to conduct formal and informal classroom observations, perform consultation with classroom teachers, engage in some informal assessment activities such as CBAs, FBAs, BIPs, development of classroom academic interventions and behavior intervention plans, participate in case conferencing, and acquire skills in utilizing different models of consultation. For the integration practicum, the hours requirement is the exact same as the other 2 practica. Your supervisor must be a licensed or certified school psychologist, and you can complete this in a school, hospital, or clinic setting. There are asterisks next to the school because this is the only practicum that you cannot complete in a New York City Department of Education school. The New York City DOE is very strict about who can conduct assessment, and they do not allow students to conduct assessment in their schools. So it can be a school that is a private school or a school in a public school setting outside of the 5 boroughs of New York City, but within 5 boroughs of New York City, it cannot be done in a public school. At minimum, you have to complete 1 psychoeducational assessment report with a child between the ages of 6 and 18. Other considerations: if you are completing the master's in preschool psychology, at least 1 of your practica has to be completed in an early childhood setting. If you're completing the master's in therapeutic interventions, there aren't any specific requirements for the practicum. However, students should keep in mind that there's an advanced seminar that they have to take either during an externship or during the first semester of internship. If you're completing the master's in the psychology of bilingual students, at least 1 of your practica has to be in a setting where you have access to culturally and linguistically diverse populations. If you're completing the bilingual PD, all of your practica have to be in settings where you have access to culturally and linguistically diverse populations, specifically using the language skills that you have in working with this population. And for the master's in educational psychology, similar to therapeutic interventions, there's no specific requirements for your practica. However, you have to complete an advanced seminar, which will be completed either during an externship or a first semester of internship. For doctoral students, externship is a requirement. It requires 1 semester, 200 hours. Your supervisor can be a licensed and/or certified school psychologist, and you can do it in a variety of settings: a school, a community-based organization, clinic, hospital, research, etc. For any of the community-based organizations, clinical sites, hospital sites, they require you to be at the site for 1 year, and they usually require at least 2 days per week. There's a uniform application process for those sites in the New York City area. Application deadline begins the day after Martin Luther King Day of the semester prior to externship. If you want some more information about that, you can see that link. There's a Google Drive document that has all the guidelines for that. And you can also email me or speak to me about those requirements. For internship, for the PD students, it requires 1,200 hours, which is pretty much full-time the entire academic year. And for doctoral internship, it requires 1,500 hours, full-time entire academic year. In either program, you can decide to complete the internship part-time, but it has to be completed over 2 years. For the PD, your supervisor must be a certified school psychologist. And for the doctorate, you have to have a supervisor who is a licensed and/or certified school psychologist, doctoral level. Setting, at least half of your internship hours must be done in a school. And for the doctoral internship, it must be either APA approved and/or follow CDSPP guidelines. And I put a link to the CDSPP guidelines there. There's an opportunity to do an internship with the New York City Department of Education. It's called the PIT program, which stands for the Psychologist in Training Program. It's a 1-year salaried internship in the New York City Department of Ed. You must be completing a bilingual PD to be eligible for that program. You must pass the New York State Bilingual Evaluation Assessment. And you must be able to conduct an interview with DOE that will be conducted in both languages, so both English and the other target language that you speak. I put a timeline for that particular internship opportunity below. If you are in the bilingual PD program or in the doctoral program, also completing the bilingual PD program, you should speak with Dr. Ding or speak with myself if that's something that you are considering. Doctoral students, you must have an approved and defended proposal prior to beginning internship. Generally, the faculty have told me that if you submit your completed proposal to your mentor and readers by January of the year prior to internship at the latest, usually you probably can defend your dissertation proposal prior to internship. If you don't do it by then, you really risk not being able to complete it before internship. For students that want to go into the APIC application process, your proposal must be completed prior to submission of applications. And I'm going to explain what APIC is in the next slide. APIC stands for the Association for Psychology and Postdoctoral Internship Centers. It is a consortium of internship sites, both APA approved and non-APA approved. Really, most of the sites are more relevant for counseling and clinical psychology students. However, there are some school districts that are appropriate for school psychology students. There are a lot of pros and cons to why you should or shouldn't consider this option. That is kind of way beyond the scope of this particular webinar. However, if it's something that you're thinking about, you should discuss it with your academic mentor and also discuss it with myself as well. The process is fairly intense in terms of the application process and interview process. So it's something that if you were considering, you would have to decide pretty early on in the program and make sure that you gain enough training hours and experience to make you marketable for that particular experience. Just in terms of a timeline, I put all of the timelines there. If it's something that you're considering, then you can review it on your own. And if you have questions, then you can always contact me and let me know. That is the end to this webinar. I hope that you found it useful. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact me via email or via telephone. And hopefully it's been helpful.